This is the Vanishing Point assignment, and Vanishing Point is a filter right here in Photoshop, and not many people have actually used it. This box with the artwork on it is what the client gave us, and it's a one-layered. You see over here how it's a one-layered JPEG. We're going to use it for position for all of the separate artwork that you see. This has two logos on it. It has a box art with a phone. It has a special offer bullet and a side text. All of that is inside your asset folder. So you can see here are the 3 Illustrator files, which I already have opened, and I want you to open them right now. So you can open the side box copy, the special offer, and the ZXTEL logo. And I'm going to open up Illustrator and show you that I already have them right here. Here is the side box copy, the special offer, and the logo. So just minimize it, and we're going to use it in a few minutes. Okay? And what I want to do is first take my panel options here, which I thought I already made larger, and I just want them bigger. Okay, so I'm going to minimize Illustrator, and we are going to now open these 3 files in Photoshop. So we're going to open the phone art right there, the PSD. We're going to open the Vanishing Point start PSD and the finish example JPEG. So those 3 files you're going to open, and I have them opened right here. The finish example JPEG that the client gave us, the Vanishing Point start with just the 2 boxes, the 2, one dark, one light box, and the phone art, which is going to be the cover art for the box. Okay, so I'm going to actually click over here to the start, and we are going to get started. The Vanishing Point assignment is so that you can actually see how easy it is to place objects that are flat objects into a 3-dimensional grid, which is actually built in 3-point perspective, which you're going to build very quickly, very easily. Okay, these 2 paths that are in the JPEG you can just ignore. You can throw them away. They're not really needed. Okay, so I'm just going to save the file again. So we're going to get started on the actual assignment. So the first thing we have to do is build the grid. Now I also wanted you, let me click over here to the folder. I also want you to open up this finished JPEG. If you're on a Mac, open it in Preview. If you're on a PC, open it in an image program that's not Photoshop. Okay, why I'm going to do that? So I'm going to open, and I'm going to open with Preview. So I'm going to place this on my other screen. It's exactly the same JPEG as the finish example. But when you're in Photoshop and when you're in the Vanishing Point filter, you can't, and you want to position items. Sometimes it's good to have this open so you can bring it over on your other screen, or you can simply look at it. Now, the alternative to opening this up in Preview or in an image program other than Photoshop is just print it out so you can have it in front of you. Okay, so I'm going to put this over on my other screen, and I'll bring it back and forth a few times. I'll also put this on my other screen, and we'll just go from there. Okay, so now you have the start file opened. I want you to save as immediately, and instead of the word start, put your name in there. Okay, so I'm just going to say Brian, and that's good to go. So now I'm not damaging the client's original file. Now the way we do this is we simply create a new layer with nothing on it. Okay, so I'm going to put in here that this is going to be the cover art with no spaces. Now I'm going to go to, which is what I want you to do. So make a new layer and just call it cover art. If we have to rename it later, we will. And I'm going to go to the phone art PSD. Now in this one, I'm going to hit Control or Command A to select all. So the whole canvas is selected. I'm just going to hit Control or Command C to copy. Now I'm basically done with this. I could close it. So I'm going to go now to the Vanishing Point Brian exercise. Now all we have to do is now enter Vanishing Point, but make sure you are on the cover art layer that has nothing on it. Okay, cool. Now let's go to Filter, Vanishing Point. Now in Vanishing Point, you're given a grid to start with. I just want you to hit the delete key to delete out that grid. Second thing, would you please go up to the grid size and put it on 50, 50. Now, oh, I did it again. I always want to click away from things, but I'm going to hit the delete key to delete out that little grid that I had started over here. So now in the grid tool, do you see the selection tool? Well, click to the grid tool if it's not already selected. Now we're going to define the front plane. Now this is just an icon that you can click. So I'm going to start and just click here on the corner. I'm going to give the second corner on the bottom left. Now I'm going to come over here and make it a tiny bit bigger than what the box is. Then watch how now all you have to do is click. You don't have to actually close the shape. You just click it on this grid and there's your grid. I hope you can see it. Okay. Now what I want to do, and I don't want to zoom in on this because if I zoom in, I'll show you. If I zoom in, I can't see the whole grid on the bottom and the top. So I'm going to leave it selected on the zoom tool, hold Alt or Option and just come back like this. Okay, so you're going to be able to see it. So I'm going to click back to the grid tool. Okay, now do you see these these 8 anchor points that are all the way around this? You see this one in the center here? I want you to hold Command or Control, Command on a Mac, Control on a PC, and I want you to grab this middle one and fold a new grid along the side of the box. Now make it a little bit bigger. Just a tiny bit bigger is cool. Okay, that's fine. Now I want you to switch to Alt or Option. Hold it down and grab this corner and look at how I can conform to fit it on the box. Now close is good enough. You don't have to panic if it doesn't get close. Okay, you can see I'm fine with what I did there. Now let go of all your keys, click on the front grid, hold Command or Control on this one right here and just guide it back along the top surface until it meets the side surface. So your viewability should be on the top left-hand corner of the whole box. Okay, I'll point to it in a second when I let this go. So you should have been looking here to just match the back to the back. Okay, now you're done. Basically, you're done with making the grid. Okay, that's very cool. Now click away from it over here in the white area. Just click away. It's totally cool. Now hit Control V or Command V to paste, and there is the cover art. Now you'll get good at this technique, but we have to grab the artwork away from the box, guide it to the plane we want it to go in. So right on this one, I'm going to start on the right hand side. See how I'm away from the box? Click, hold, and drag it into the box. So I dragged it into the front plane. Now, this is where I said you want to actually see the placement of this. Now, I know that it's supposed to be just barely touching. So look at your artwork. Look at the thing you printed out. Look at your other screen if you have it open. Now, I'm going to position it so I know it's exactly where it should be, right there. That's just about exactly where it should be. Okay, now I'm going to click away from Photoshop to the preview program and show you that I have it in the right place. I want you to see how close it is here, right there where I'm pointing. I'm not going to click. And I'm going to want you to see how this left-hand side is near the edge and how the bottom of the phone is slightly cropped off. So now you can see I have it pretty good. Now it's not going to be possible for me to go back into this and move it. So I wanted you to have the viewability open to you so you can position it just like I did. Okay, now if you have to, you can hit cancel and do it all over again. It's not a bad thing, it's just do it over again. Now I'm going to hit OK. So I don't want you ever in that window to hit the return key. If you hit return or enter, it's actually going to close the vanishing point filter. Then you'd have to go back into it and do it over again. Meaning you'd have to throw this away. See, let's say the cover art is damaged. Well, throw it away, make a new layer, call it cover art, and start over. You don't have to you don't have to go back into the phone art and recopy it. It's already in the clipboard, if you follow what I'm saying. Now I'm going to hit Command S to save. Now, we're going to make folders, and the folders are going to look like this. So I'm going to go to my, where did I put it? I'm going to go to the asset folder right here. I have a screenshot that I actually took of the finish when I actually, it's right there. Now I'm going to open that up so I can see a screenshot of the folders I need. So I want you to make a folder called box type and a folder called box artwork. So I'm going to put this over here and I'm going to stare at it as I work. So right now I'm going to make a folder. Look, I'm clicking on a folder and I'm going to call the first folder box artwork. Now I'm going to call the second folder, so I'm going to click on the folder again, box type. Whoops. And I'm going to hit the return key. Now I'm going to save the file again. Now I'm going to take this cover art and put it into, look, I'm dragging it up into the box artwork. Now I'm ready to go on to the next thing. Okay, so what I want to do is click on box type, and I want to make a new nothing filled layer. I'm not even going to name it because I'm probably going to throw it away in a minute. Okay, and that's the weird part of this whole assignment. You're going to be creating you're going to be creating layers. Throw them away. Go into Vanishing Point, and then it will, well, you'll see. So it's not a big deal. You'll get totally used to it. All right, so I have a layer. The very first thing we're going to do is put the logo in the box. So I'm going to click to the Finish Example. We're going to keep this open in Photoshop because I want to use this for the bevel and emboss that the client said. I want to use it for position, okay, and I also want to use it for the color of the gray. So I'm going to click the B key right now, anticipating something, and I'm going to grab this color. I'll probably do it again before I actually fill, but I just Option or Alt clicked. Once you're in the paintbrush, you can hold Alt or Option and click, and you have the color in the foreground color. Okay, no big deal. Let's click back to Brian's Vanishing Point exercise. Now we have to enter Illustrator. So open Illustrator and get the logo. Now the logo is a series of paths. So I'm going to click to the Direct Selection tool. So have your logo open, click to the Direct Selection tool, and just marquee the whole thing. That's all you have to do. Now before you hit Command C or Control C to copy, please go into Illustrator, Preferences, Clipboard. Okay? And we're going to turn on AICB, standing for Adobe Illustrator Clipboard. So we're going to click it on. We're going to click Preserve Paths because I want the option when I copy something from Illustrator to paste into Photoshop as one of four things. I want the option to choose it. If I don't choose this, if I don't have it on, whatever I paste into Photoshop will go in as pixels. And I don't want that all the time. So I'm going to click OK. So make sure you have turned on whatever computer you're on, the AICB and Preserve Paths. Cool. Now hit Control or Command C. Just minimize Illustrator. Now on that new layer in Photoshop, just make sure it is selected. Now there's two things I want you to do right now. Well, one thing basically. I want you to hit the P key. Just go ahead and hit it. Just tap it. Now up here in the corner, I want to make sure that you're on Path, not Shape. Okay, thank you. So make sure you're on Path. Okay. The next thing is I want you to click to any one of these shapes. You see the ellipse tool here? I'm going to right-hand click and just make it the rectangle tool. But basically, I just want you to hit the U key. Okay, now I also want you to go up into the corner here, up here, and I want you to make sure it's on path. I don't want any shapes. Okay, next thing. I don't have to be in the U key and I don't have to be in the P key, but I wanted those to be on paths. They don't default to paths. They default to shapes. Now I want to click to the Move tool, so you can hit the V key if you want. Now make sure this blank layer is selected, and we are going to do the following. Okay, so I actually made a mistake what I just told you. Because we're going to paste the paths from Illustrator into Photoshop as paths, we can't have anything selected in layers or in paths. Now I'm going to show you the mistake. If you leave layer 1 selected and hit Command V or Control V, you get a box. Now we're going to choose pixels a couple times, but I'm going to choose path. So would you please choose path? But watch what happens when I click OK. It pastes over to this layer as a vector path. I have to say, oops, that's not what I want. I don't want it in there. See in the path palette how it says vector mask? I don't want that. So I'm going to Command or Control Z back. Now click away from all layers and all paths. Very good. Now hit Command or Control V. Now leave it as a path, click, and now it comes in as a work path, which is what it should do. So the rule of thumb is don't have any layer ever selected when you're taking stuff from Illustrator and putting it into Photoshop. Now I'm going to double click this and I'm going to name it Logo. And just hit the return key. Now, it doesn't matter where it is on the page. What does matter is we're going to fill it with that gray. Okay, so I basically don't have to have any of this on if you want to see me fill it with gray. But I'm going to leave that stuff on because it's okay to have it on. It doesn't matter if it's on or off. Okay, cool. Now, let's Command or Control click the new path over here to the left. So I hold the Command key and I click on it to turn it into a selection, right? Now select your layer. Don't even name it because we are going to throw it away in a second. Okay? So now I hit Option, Delete on a Mac, or Alt Backspace to fill it with the foreground color. Now, there's a quick thing I want to show you. If when you selected the color, so when you went to the Finish Example and you hit the B key and you held the Option key, if for some reason when you clicked that gray it went into the background color, I'm going to show you how to fix that. A lot of people go into this color palette right here. Do you see it right there? You have to make sure that the little highlighted box is on the foreground color. If you ever go to a machine or start Photoshop somewhere else, and every time you eyedrop it goes into the background color, it's because somebody, I'm going to point to it, somebody actually clicked the background color. All you have to do to fix that is click the foreground color in the color palette. But I'm going to close it now because I did do that and I'm good to go. Okay, that's something I just wanted you to know. So I'm going to click back to Vanishing Point. Okay, I have that artwork, right? Cool. So I'm going to deselect. Now, all I have to do is either hit Command A to select all. Look, I'm on that layer right there. All right, that's very good. I'm on that layer. I'm going to hit the M key for Marquee and make a teensy weensy box a little bigger around that gray lettering. And now, if I'm selected on that layer, I hit Command or Control C. Now, basically, folks, I can just throw this away. I don't need it. But I need a new blank layer, which I am going to name Logo 1. Now, all I have to do is enter. I have to deselect. My goodness gracious, Brian. When you enter Vanishing Point, don't have anything selected. Okay, they have no selection lines. So on this blank layer, with that artwork with the logo already copied into the clipboard, go into Vanishing Point. Now, click away from the grid. Hit Command or Control V. Now we want it to go onto the front plane. So watch how I grab this. I click and move it over, and then I move it in. Now it's way too big, right? So now here's where I have to discuss with you the difference between the regular Photoshop transform window, like when you're not in a filter, and when you're in a filter. Okay, so if I hit Command T on this, I have to hold the Shift key to constrain this so it doesn't change to a weird proportion. So do you see how I'm continuing? I'm pressing now the Shift key, and I'm now making this in about the right position. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, just put it somewhere near the top within that front grid. It doesn't matter your size. Now, we're done. Okay, I'm going to actually show you now how we're going to position it and size it correctly. Okay, so once you have it in there and you made sure you held the Shift key on that, just click OK. Now your layer is there. See it? Now, we're going to do a couple of things. Okay, I'm going to click to the Finish Example, and I'm going to see, oh, hey, there's a bevel and emboss on that. So I'm going to click back and forth between these two items here, or I'm going to bring the preview thing over and just sneak it down here so I can see that over here. Do you see how I can see that Z that's right over here? I can kind of see how big it's supposed to be on the bevel and emboss. I can also see the position of it. So let's just talk about that for a second. See how the word cellular is on that 1, 2, 3, 4th grid line? See how it's one box, one space on the grid over here for where the L ends, and a little bit, it's like one full, it's right in the center of that one. So the Z is going to be in the center, the L is going to line up on the right hand side with that grid line, and the word cellular is going to be, the top of the word cellular is going to be on the 4th grid line. So that's going to be close enough. Okay, so I'm going to put that on my other screen. Now let's do it what I said. So now let's go into the bevel and emboss right there. You can see it. It's in the Layer Styles window. Now you can see how I have it. I'm going to zoom in on this. Now, if you want, if your bevel isn't wide enough, then size it up or size it down. I sized it to about that much right there. Now, if the highlight isn't bright enough, and if the shadow isn't dark enough, then alter the highlight opacity, make it more or less, and the shadow. Okay, and then you're done. That's good. I mean, this looks good, so I'm going to say okay. Now I have a bevel and emboss in there. That's cool. Now, if I hit the M key, I'm sorry, the V key, and I'm selected on that layer, I can now move this around, right? So we said it has to be, I have it too big. So I need to look at this, position it, which I'm going to do with you, in front of you. All right, so I'm going to hit Command T now. Whoops, I need to click to Photoshop, silly man, and I have Command T. Now, you don't hold the Shift key in Photoshop 2019 and beyond. So if you have the new version of Photoshop, don't hold the Shift key. If you have an older version of Photoshop, do hold the Shift key. I'm not going to hold the Shift key, and I'm going to skinny that down a little bit. Now I'm going to move it over to where it should be. The word cellular here needs to be on that grid line. The L has to touch this grid line, and the Z needs to be just a smidgen bigger, just a smidgen right there. So I'm good to go. I now have that in the right place. Okay, now we're going to do the same exact thing for the logo on the top. The same exact thing. Now the neat part is I don't have to, let me show you what I'm talking about. For the logo on the top, I already have this copied in the clipboard, right? So all I have to do is click into Photoshop, make a new layer, call it top logo or logo 2 or whatever you want to call it. I'm fine with that, and I'll say top logo. So maybe I should rename this one front logo. Why not? Just be organized, but name them what you want. Okay? Now, which layer do I have to be selected on? Well, obviously it's the top logo. Is there anything on the top logo? Answer is no. So now, is there anything selected? The answer is no. So I can go into the filter. And now in the filter, I'm going to zoom it up a little bit so we can see this kind of okay here. And I'm going to click away from it. So now you have to, don't be in the zoom tool when you click away or it'll just get bigger. So I'm going to switch to the selection tool. Isn't that cool? Okay, now click in the white area. Hit Control or Command V to paste. Now, instead of dragging it to the front, let's drag it to the top. So I grab it right here away from the box and throw it onto the top plane. Now, it's obviously too big. So we have to hit Command T. Now, do you have to hold the Shift key? Answer yes. No matter what, answer yes, whether it's Photoshop 2019 or whatever. So keep on holding the Shift key. Now, you don't have to be that accurate. Just make sure, whoops, I need to get farther over. My finger is on the Shift key. I'm letting go of the Shift key when I want to move it. Now, it's still slightly too big. I know from experience that it's supposed to match up to the same grid lines. So I'm going to go like this, and I pretty much have it where it's supposed to be. Okay? No, I don't. I think I made it too small. Yes, I did. So I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I'm going to make it just slightly bigger. Okay, that's kind of snapping in a weird way. So I'm just going to leave it just like this. Perfect. Okay? Doesn't have to be perfect. So perfect is, never mind. I'm perfect when I'm not perfect. So let's go click OK. Now, it wants the same bevel and emboss. So on a PC or a Mac, hold Alt or Option, click on Bevel and Emboss, and drag Bevel and Emboss up to the top logo. So now you've copied the layer style from one layer to another. Hit Command S to save. Now if you see, follow this grid line up. See, I'm clicking on it right there. Follow it up and over. I'm pretty close to where it is, and I'm actually really close to where it's supposed to be, except the client wanted this logo a little bit farther up like this. So the word cellular was laying right on this grid line that I'm actually showing you. So I'm good to go. That's real pretty. So let's hit Command S to save, and now let's get on to the next thing. What is the next thing? Let's put in the special offer, the buy now and get free minutes. I want you to see how it's a grid line over from this side, right here to the edge, a grid space to the bottom, and just barely touching the phone. So we don't have to make it perfect, but we do have to make a blank layer with nothing on it. Okay, very good. Open Illustrator. Go click on your special offer. Take your direct selection tool, click on it, and make a big box around this. I will remind you that we went into Illustrator, Preferences, and we changed the clipboard to having AICB on. You don't have to do it every time. I just wanted to remind you. So now hit Command or Control C. Okay, now close or minimize Illustrator. Make sure you're selected on that layer. Remember I said that, but now let's actually, okay, this is going to sound strange. No, it's not. Remember I said a minute ago when you paste into Photoshop, you want to have no layers selected? That's only if you're pasting paths. So when I hit Command V, I'm going to choose pixels this time. In pixels, the rules change a little bit. I can be selected on a layer because I want it to go into that layer. Hopefully that made sense to you. Has nothing to do with a path. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and now you can see how there's my big thing right there, my big special offer. So I'm going to hold the Shift key. I'm sorry. Oops. In the regular Photoshop window, don't hold the Shift key. And let's just kind of make it relatively the right size. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just make it relatively the right size, which is just put it like right there. I don't care. That's fine. Now let's hit the return key to accept the transformation. Command S to save or Control S to save the file. Now get your M key for marquee. Make a box around the special offer. Make sure you're selected onto layer 2, which is going to get thrown away in a second. And hit Control C or Command C. Now, deselect. Remember, when you enter the filter, you can't have any selection lines. Throw away layer 2. Make a new layer, okay, and let's call it special offer. I actually have another layer in there, and I don't remember making it, but that's okay. And I'm going to throw that one away. I'm going to make sure nothing is on this one, though. So let me back off on this by zooming out with my middle mouse button and Option held down or Alt held down, and there's nothing on that, so I'm going to throw that layer away. I just make layers, I guess so. So now that we have the special offer in the clipboard with no selection active, we can go into Vanishing Point. And now click away from everything. Remember, you have to click away, be in the selection tool. Okay, click away, way up here. Hit Control or Command V, grab it. Now watch me take it to the bottom, around the bottom. Don't touch the box, Brian, and put it in the box. Now just leave it there. That's way close enough to where it should be. And just hit OK. Now we can hit Command or Control T after we have this in front of us. Now let's have the little points on the special offer barely touch the phone, one grid space and one grid space. So I think that's good. Okay, so now click back, Command Control T. Let's not not hold the Shift key. Let's make that come just about that far right here. Move it down a tiny bit and over, and that's exactly where it wants to go. As I'm looking at the box, I need to make it just a pinch bigger so the triangles on this special offer right here, I don't want to see any of that line in the phone, so just a tiny bit bigger. Okay, now that's good. The client's going to be happy. I hit the return key. I go on to one of the last items. Okay, so hit Command S to save. Now we're going to go get the side copy on the box. So what do I need to do? I need to make a new layer. I believe I do. So we're going to paste this as pixels as well. But remember, we're going to throw this away so I don't need to name it. So let's go back into Illustrator. Before I do, I want you to see that the copy is white and the picture has a white background. So let me go over here and show you that when I go into Illustrator, it's a whoops. That's black copy, and it has a guideline. So do you see over here in the layer palette how I've actually opened the layer up? See the guideline right there? I'm going to click on the radial button right there and just hit the delete key so the guide is gone. Now I'm going to go to the direct selection tool and I'm going to marquee the top of this, and there it's selected. I don't know why I have a southern accent right there. I'm going to hold the Shift key in the direct select tool and not let go, and I'm going to marquee from the bottom, and I have all of that selected. They're really not fonts, they're paths. Okay, now what you're going to do is double click the fill color in Illustrator. I almost said foreground color. This is not Photoshop. And I'm going to make the color picker go up to the white. And I'm going to click OK. Now when I select away from it, you won't see the text, but the text is there and the picture is perfect. The picture is still all white. So make a big, huge box around everything so you're sure you have it all. Okay. Command C or Control C. Close or minimize Illustrator. Click to Photoshop. Are you on that layer? Yep, I am. Hit Command or Control V, paste it as pixels, and you know what? I didn't need to make a new layer. That's where that layer is always coming from. I'm sorry. Layer 1, it pasted in its own layer despite me having a layer made. But did it hurt that I had a layer made? No, I say always be better safe than sorry. Okay, so what we want to do is just size this down a little bit. So I'm going to hit Control T or Command T. I'm in the regular window, right? So I don't in 2019 have to hold the Shift key. So I'm going to make it smaller and just kind of put it kind of where it's going to go and about the right size. So that's just about where it's going to go. Very good. Hit the return key. Hit the M key. make a box, a marquee around that about this big. You see how big I am? I'm giving it plenty of room. Okay. Command C or Control C. Deselect. You must deselect. And now this time I am going to throw that away. So the layer that I made a minute ago, I should have kept. So I just put it back. Now I'm going to call it side text. Whoops. And hit the return key and save the file. Okay. Now let's ask ourselves the question. Do you have anything selected? Answer is no. Are you on the right layer? Answer is yes. Have you copied that stuff from the other layer, and is it in the clipboard? Yes. I can now enter the vanishing point. Click away from everything, hit Command or Control V to paste, grab it and throw it onto the side. Just make sure, now I can kind of get closer so you can see, make sure, I'm going to go to the hand tool and move it down, make sure it's not bending around this. So we need to transform it. So click, if you didn't magnify it, just make sure you're on the selection tool up here when you hit Command T. Do you have to hold the Shift key? Yes, we're in the filter. So now I'm making it like that. You see how I've got it fit, and I am within reason. Let me zoom out. So I'm getting the zoom tool and holding Alt or Option, and I'm zooming out. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the selection tool. Now I can re-hit Command or Control T. Okay, I can do that because it was still selected. I want it just slightly bigger. Just slightly bigger. It's too small. So I'm holding the Shift key and I'm making it slightly bigger. Now, I can see, I should zoom in. Oh, darn it. I should see that this copy right here, do you see this EU and this? It's too close to this side. It needs to be backed off just a little bit. Actually, it's just perfect. If I'm looking at this, it's just perfect. So I think I can just leave it. So I'm good to go. So if I wanted to, though, I could re-hit Command T. Whoops, click on Photoshop, Brian. Re-hit Command T, and you see how I could actually skinny it down by grabbing the center icon if I needed to. Now, I'm good to go. I'm going to click OK. And now there's your body copy. Now let's look at position. You see this next generation technology? It's not quite touching that upper grid line, and it's flush against that grid line, and it's about 1/8 of an inch away from there. And on the bottom, it's about a space, a whole grid space. Well, I'm just about right. I think it should be a little deeper on the bottom. So if I zoom in here, you can see that if I hit, I need to click on Photoshop. I need to make sure I'm on there, and I'm going to hit Command T. I'm actually going to, and here's something I want you to see. This is very irritating what they did, they being the Photoshop guys, girls, whatever. And they, if I grab this just, and I want to make it a little bit deeper, the whole thing is going to get bigger. And it's very irritating that that happens. So I'm going to Command Z back or Control Z back. To adjust one of these anchors in Photoshop, you have to hold the Shift key. That makes no sense at all. Now, when I grab, I'm holding the Shift key on this bottom anchor, I'm only actually increasing the depth of it. Now, if I only grab with no Shift key here and I want to make it skinnier, do you see how the whole thing changes? Man, is that irritating. So I'm going to hold the Shift key if I want to make it skinnier or whatever, but it fits perfectly right where it's supposed to fit. I'm hitting the return key and I'm good to go. Now, do you guys see how there's a light yellow, a light top on this box and a darker side? Your job is to now add an adjustment layer. So we're pretty much done on this box type, okay? I'm going to close the box type folder, hit Command S or Control S to save, and I'm going to click on Cover Art. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to level this and make it darker, but we're only going to expose the side panel to the adjustment layer. Now, what the heck did I mean there? Okay, if I make an adjustment of levels, and I darken this, the whole thing darkens. Well, that's not what I want. I only want the side of this to darken. So the wonderful part about that is look at the mask that's over here. All we have to do is make a path. And then there's several ways to actually get that in there and have it only adjust the side of it. First, we have to draw it. So I'm going to take the P key. Now I'm going to zoom in, and we are going to grab this. I didn't do a very good job, but I could retouch this off in a few minutes. I might be picky and actually retouch that off. Now I'm going to not hold the Shift key, and you can see how I've started my path. I can adjust it in a few minutes. Let me come down here and click right there. Now let's go over here and click right over here. And now I might need to adjust that. Now let's zoom out. Let's go all the way to the top, zoom in, and close my path. Now remember I said in the pen tool you have to be on path. I've already made you default to path. Now don't leave this as a work path, just name it side. Just so it's named and saved. Okay? Now if you're in the P key, just hold Command or Control, click that one point, or click away, click back, and click on this point, and you can move just that point to where you want. And I will retouch this. Now look, I missed this a little bit right there. It's very hard to see, but I'm going to click that one point and just move it up, and I'm really nicely on that corner. Let's come down. Let's look and see how close I am. I think that should move down just a little bit. And let's go over to here and zoom in, and I can see that I'm pretty good. I could come down one more, I guess. And now I have my path. So I want you to draw that path. Now, when you're done drawing, save the file. Hold Command or Control and make a selection of the icon. Now all you have to do is fill up this with black. Now there's two ways to do this. I'm going to show you the easy way. You could inverse it and then fill it with black, or you could just fill it with black right now. So what we're going to do is, and I want you to know that this is possible, make sure your mask is selected. We're going to fill with the foreground color, which is black, and I'm going to hit Option or Alt, Backspace, or Option Delete. Now, it's wrong. I actually have black where the side is and white out here, meaning the rest of the box is leveled off and it's not affecting the side. All you have to do is hit Command or Control I, not Command Shift I, just Command I to invert that. And that's what I want you to learn. That you could have put it in here incorrectly, which really wasn't incorrect, and just hit Command I. Now the other way to do the whole thing would have been this. Let me Command Z back twice, or 3 times. I could have inversed the selection, which is on my Mac, Shift Command I or Control Command I. Then I could have just done the same thing by filling with the foreground color, and it accomplished the same thing. But I wanted you to know that there is a Shift Command I for a selection, which means inverse. There's a Command I, which means invert. So you invert images, you inverse selections. Now all we have to do is use that same path, and we can adjust it for the top. Now watch how simple this is. So I'm going to duplicate that, call it top, and then all I have to do is actually grab this corner right here. Watch. If I grab that corner, I have the corner. Look at how I can put it over here, and I don't even care how far it is. I'm just going to leave it really ugly like that. I mean, I don't even have to. This is cool. I can't even get to the top of this. Do you see how it won't let me get to the top of that path so I can move that point? All I have to do is hit the F key to expand it to full screen, hold the space bar, and there's your point. Do you get the point? Now in the P key, if I hold the Command key, I can actually adjust it. But I purposefully am leaving it too big. I want you to understand that. Leave it too big. Okay. Now make a new layer above this and call it Top Highlight. Very good. Make a selection of the top. I'm going to hit Command or Control H to temporarily hide the selection. Now I'm hitting the B key for the brush. Do you see the size of my brush? It's rather large. I want yours to be large. Do not do this with a teensy weensy brush like that. Make it big. Now, hold the Alt or Option key and sample the white background. Now just paint. But don't paint if your flow is at 100. Please put the flow here on about 8 to 10. Make sure opacity is at 100. I have my smoothing at 2. Right hand click and make sure you are all the way soft. Do not do it hard. Do it soft. Okay. I'm going to hit the Enter or Return key to take away this box. Now watch how I'm a little too big on the brush. Watch how I put a lot of white on this. And it's going to be way too white. That's fine. I'm going to show you that I still had Command H hidden, but now I've shown you the selection by hitting Command or Control H and Command D to deselect. Now simply take the mode of this and put it on Overlay. Look at how pretty that is. Now if I wanted to retouch the whole thing, I could easily retouch this box. Now let me see where that exists. So on here, you might not have to do this. For the most part, you're done. Brian has to do a fix. So I'm going to add a layer mask to this, a white layer mask. It has to be white. So that meant that when I click this button down here, I had nothing selected. Now I'm going to zoom in. Now I'm going to make my brush really tiny. Now, if I paint black at 8 or 10% flow, I can actually soften this edge. So I can actually take away that corner, make my brush nice and small, and I can actually take that and make it look correct. So I've softened that. When I get close to this or back off, that will look just fine. That will look just fine. I was so close, wasn't funny. So the client will still love that. Okay? That is a wonderful thing. So there is your box design, and that's what I want you to give me. I want you to close your folders, make sure that you have all 3 layers or 4 layers, because we actually have 2 layers for the top logo and the bottom logo. Make sure you've put your bevel and emboss on both by holding Alt or Option and dragging one to the other. If you want to get somewhat creative, you could actually click to the special offer and you could actually make a drop shadow, which I already have done right here. So if you want a nice drop shadow on that, look at, there's your drop shadow off, if it ever does come off, and I'll put it back on, I'll click OK, and I'm good to go. The client might even like that. Okay? So I hope you've enjoyed this. I know that it's a little bit more technical, but hey, not many people know how to use the Vanishing Point filter. Photoshop put it there, so we might as well use it. I will see you on the next assignment.